All right. We had a super cute, fun setup on OBS, and it didn't work the way it was supposed to work. Either that or I'm an idiot. I don't know. One of the two. But because it's all fresh in my mind, I wanted to just go ahead and go live anyways and try and spew things out of my brain. So, without further ado, 16 minutes late, go ahead. This is episode 3. Go ahead and give us a little introduction about what it is that we are reviewing and some information about the movie.
All right, tonight's episode 3 is 2012's Maniac, starring Elijah Wood and Nora Arnazeder, and directed by Frank Calhoun. It's a remake of the 1980s film of the same name. And yeah.
Neither of us have seen the original film. Neither of us were even aware that it was a remake, which kind of sucks. I kind of would have liked to watch the original first and then figure it out. But just taking the film as it was, overall thoughts, I would say I thought it was solid.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. Biggest thing for me was a lot of the movie is filmed in first person.
Oh, yeah.
Through the eyes of the killer in the movie. So I thought that was a very interesting way to film it. It makes you uneasy watching it at times.
Yeah.
Because the camera motions.
You're kind of trying to like back up from what he's doing. Like, whoa, stop it. Like, backing yourself out of it. But no, it was an interesting take on it. I don't really know of any other movies that do that. But I love Elijah Wood and pretty much everything he's ever done. So it was fun to see him in a super dark role like that. I don't know. You've seen Horns, right?
Yeah.
Horns is another really good movie that he's in. I wouldn't necessarily call it a horror, but
was he in that?
Oh, that's Daniel Radcliffe. I'm so fucking
stupid.
What? I'm so fucking dumb.
I mean, yeah, they're
close, Wilfred. There's one.
I was like, Horns.
I'm so fucking dumb.
I've seen Horns. What does that have to do with Elijah Wood?
Oh, I'm so stupid. Okay. Wow. All right. Let's just fucking call it quits right now. Okay. I feel so stupid. Okay. So, one of the notable things I think too is the gore is pretty extreme in this movie, which is not something I was expecting because I didn't foresee it being really graphic. I thought it'd be more of a thriller because of the fact that it is like already in its own category as being a first person horror serial killer movie. But the gore, there is a lot of scalping. The very first thing that you see is he's kind of cornering a girl in her like apartment building, and first thing he just like stabs her right here, and it's like the grossest thing because you're just not expecting it. It's like within the first 5 minutes of the movie. But yeah, scalping is something I'm not a fan of, so it was hard to watch, but it was still good. One thing I did notice though is that his victims, sometimes he courts them, like he meets them online and he takes them for dates, or he meets them out and about and he kind of gets to know them before he kills them. And then other times he's just like on the street and starts stalking random women. And there is one point where we kind of made a Lord of the Rings joke because he started talking to himself and being like, no, I don't want to do this. Why do you make me do this? Da, 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 da.
They hate you.
Yeah. So I don't know what is up with that. I don't know. They never really, I guess I did kind of notice a couple of times that it went out of first person and went to third person, like during killings. But I would think that was just kind of a cinematic thing.
Yeah.
But maybe there was some symbolism there, like, oh, I'm watching my body kill someone when I don't want to be doing that.
You're totally right. I didn't think about that too while watching the movie, but yeah, there were a few times where you saw outside of his body, but a lot of times we're seeing his reflection and stuff. But yeah, like there was that particular where he jumped on that girl and
Yeah.
And he was stalking, and you just saw him driving the knife into her, 50 times.
Yeah, and you could tell that like a couple, it was weird. It kind of didn't feel like a normal serial killer where they have like one central, I mean, well, in some respects it was kind of like that because he did the same thing to all of his victims pretty much, was stabbed them and then scalped them. Mm-hmm. Although in some cases he tried to drown them or he suffocated them, or so it was a little bit different in that respect. But then I also noticed like some of them he was really like infatuated with, really liked them. Some of them were totally random girls that were walking alone at night. Some of them were people who annoyed him. And then one of them was somebody, like you kind of see a couple of times, you see some flashbacks to his childhood of his mother, like having sex in front of him and doing drugs and stuff like that. And so one of his victims, he like in his mind thought it was his mom or something like that. It's just like, it's very kind of all over the place to the point where you're like, okay, so what is your actual motive? Like, are you killing girls you love or killing girls who walk out at night alone or that look like your mom, or what is it? Because they don't all look alike.
No, none of them look anything alike.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. And then there was also kind of a weird theme of sexual gratification from it as well. Like after he would scalp these girls, he'd like make a weird like noise, and it was really
that wasn't even the scalp. It was just that initial incision, and he like
gave
that initial tear of the hair up, and he just did like a
yeah, and it was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Let's see. Oh, yeah, there, and then it was just interesting. His last victim was somebody it seemed that he was really, really infatuated with, genuinely. She was an artist, a photographer, and she saw, I guess we really haven't mentioned the mannequins. Oh, yeah. So the whole reason that he scalps these girls is because he's got a collection of mannequins at home that he staples their scalps to. And it seems that he's sort of got an attachment to the mannequins because he'll cut. One of the first things you see about the mannequins is he came home and
he's got them set up in, sexual positions and stuff. And
yeah, all around his house.
Yeah, he had one laying in a bed and a female laying in a bed and a female mannequin, like almost as if she was like kind of going down on her a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, he
like between her legs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he walks in and he starts saying like, no, go away. And you're kind of like, what the hell are you talking about? And then he picks up a can of Raid, like, because I guess there's flies on the scalps and stuff. So he's got some sort of an affinity for them where he doesn't want them to be ruined. But then at the same time, he just killed women and scalped them and stapled the scalps to mannequins.
Well, trophies.
Shut the hell up.
Well, I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's interesting. And throughout the movie, you kind of get glimpses. Like there was one scene, I don't know if he was dreaming or if it was a weird vision he had.
Oh, yeah.
But he was standing in front of the mirror and he took his clothes off and it starts like panning down his body. And as soon as it gets to his pelvic area, it's just like a rounded bulge, like a Ken doll, like where his penis should be, which is just weird. And then, yeah, I mean, I guess we could kind of tell the ending too, because it's not like a super shocker, I guess.
Going off of what you were saying though, what went into the mannequins though was a good portion of the movie deals with the relationship that he's having with this girl that he meets who's taking, because he works in a mannequin shop that was owned by his mother, apparently. And she was standing out, this girl that he, that he spends most of the movie with a relationship with. She's taking pictures of the mannequins in the windows, and they start talking, and they develop some sort of a relationship, and he likes her. And part of the thing too is I noticed, like, after the first wasn't the first victim that had the knife up the
Yeah.
jaw, but like right after that, it goes to him like online, where he's online chatting, and he ends up going on a date with this girl and takes her home, and she invites him upstairs, and she starts getting naked and trying to seduce him, and then he kills her. And while he's killing her, actually after he kills her, I think that they actually have sex, don't they? Didn't they?
I think so, yeah.
And then he kills her, strangles her during sex, and then afterwards he gets upset and said, "Why did you do that?" Like he's talking to the voice in his head, like the voice, is what killed him or killed her.
Yeah.
And so you get this idea that he doesn't want to kill these women, but there's a voice in his head that's telling him to do it or making him do it.
And you know what? Now it's kind of coming full circle just listening to you say that, is that maybe the women that he just full out stalks and attacks, maybe that's the voice doing that. Yeah. And the ones he courts, he actually wants a relationship with, and then the voice ends up killing them anyways. Exactly. Yeah, that could be a thing. I don't know. It's confusing because it's like they've all got, similarities, whereas like the way he kills them and how he kills them and everything. But then it's like weird the way that sometimes he lets girls into his life and then kills them later. And sometimes he just randomly finds somebody and kills them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't even know that I can talk for that long about this. I'm like 11 minutes. It was, I liked it a lot, just as a whole. Braden had said that he didn't know that he would watch it again, but I think I would for sure.
Well, like I said, it's one of those, I wouldn't sit and choose to like by myself watch it again. It'd be something I'd watch again with somebody else though who hadn't seen it. Definitely. It wasn't a bad movie at all. I enjoyed it. Yeah. It's just one of those movies that it's so, one timer, it's,
Yeah. I'd be curious to see what the original movie is like, and if it's first person or like
I doubt it. I doubt it would be first person because that wasn't even a thing. That didn't become a thing until Blair Witch.
Yeah,
really. I don't think the first person film idea existed before Blair Witch. I may be mistaken.
No, that sounds right. Yeah. I mean, it added, on one hand, I love Elijah Wood, so it was kind of a disappointment to not like see him on camera that much. But then on the other hand, it was an interesting element that it added, and you still have his voice, and And
you see him throughout the movie, reflections and whatnot, and I think it adds to that too, kind of like that. Not seeing him, like really? I said at the beginning, not seeing him, it kind of puts you into the movie a little bit more, to where you're, and like I said earlier too, with I keep saying like I said earlier, though, that being in the first person, it gives you that uneasy motion.
What are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
There's like one scene in particular where he's looking in the mirror and he's tilting his head, but the camera like tilts with him. And, there's a scene where he's chasing a girl down through a completely empty subway station, which I find very unlikely. This chick's running away from him, screaming half to death. And they end up running out of the subway station into a parking lot where there's tons of cars, where he actually takes her down. Oh, actually, he doesn't take her down. He hides under a car, and that was where he slashes her tendon, her Achilles tendon, and you actually see her twist her ankle and fall down, and he proceeds to, stab her a dozen times. And there's like nobody around. Like she's screaming, and
he was definitely very bold with where he decided to do the killings. Like it was in a lot of cases just like kind of in the open where he was stalking these girls, and then other times, and maybe that's just because he was like, because the girl in the subway was just one he just randomly stalked too. So maybe that's just like the animalistic, impulses where he doesn't give a shit who's around him, but at the same time, he kind of does. It's weird. And the girl that he was really infatuated with, who was obsessed with his mannequins, ends up borrowing some of his mannequins, taking them to an art installation that she does. And then as soon as, like, the whole time, it seems like she's flirting with him. Like, I thought for sure that she liked him. And then they get there and she's kissing on another guy, and like, that's her boyfriend. And it was weird too because he went into the bathroom with the boyfriend, and they had an interaction where it looked like for sure Elijah was going to kill him.
I thought he was going to kill him too.
Yeah, and because he, you know, they're both washing their hands, and the boyfriend says, "Did you play with dolls as a kid?" And then Elijah Wood says, "No, I'm not gay." And then the guy comes up and he like finishes washing his hands, and he just goes, wipes his wet hands on his sleeves, and I was like, oh, for sure that guy's a fucking goner, but he didn't die. I wonder what the point of that scene was, because
I don't know. I agree. Looking back in retrospect, curious what the point of that was, because there was no.
Yeah, it didn't amount to anything, and then he goes back to her. He ends up following an older gal from the art installation who walked home alone, and it looked like
her agent.
Yeah, and it looked like that she had annoyed him a lot because she was just kind of being an annoying art person.
Well, she was being condescending about his job, about restoring mannequins and whatnot, and just making it sound like his profession was a joke.
Right, and so he followed her home. He got her in the bathtub where she had a washcloth over her eyes, and he drowned her. Well, he drowned her until she could, like, to the point where she could regain consciousness. And then once she did, he had her tied up on the bed, like arms behind her back, tied to her ankles kind of thing. And
she was an older woman too.
Yeah, maybe 50s. And he was talking to her like there was like a big monologue as though that was his mother. Yeah. And that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, he'd said you thought changing your hair and your makeup would fool me or something like that.
Yeah, but I think quite clearly it was not his mother.
Yeah.
But that, he ended up killing her, and that was like, oh, this makes sense. But then the rest of it was like, well, none of this ties in with it either. Yeah. So I don't know. It was, I guess I'll have to do a little bit of digging, watch some other reviews of it, and see if there's something that I didn't pick up on. But other than that, I probably would watch it again just to see if there are things that I'm like connecting dots with,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Like I said, I would definitely watch it again with somebody else. It wouldn't be something I'd watch by myself again.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
It was an okay movie. I'd give it like I'd say 6 or 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd probably do about the same. Wasn't one of those life-changing holy shit. No. My life will never be the same after.
There's lots of brutal violence in it. Like I said, every one of the scalpings made you cringe.
Oh yeah.
And then even the Achilles slice, like I almost saw it coming, like just as you saw him under the car, and as soon as you saw her coming, it's like, oh, and I know how you have a thing with that. You hate those.
Yeah.
That we were just talking about that within the last couple of weeks about you hating the idea of somebody, from under the car, slashing your Achilles.
Okay, yeah, that was something too that I kept bringing up, was that this is all affirming my worst fears. Like when I go out, I'm very much on the defense, and I think one, it's because I'm a woman, but two, it's because I worked in security and I know what actually, people are capable of. And, watching all these girls get followed by guys, and like the whole time they're kind of like questioning themselves and being like, oh, maybe he's not following me. Maybe I'm just being, self-centered. Like you can see that whole dialogue going on through their heads, only because I know that because I live that. And like shit actually did come of that for them. But then there were other situations, like on the bus, he was staring at her on the bus, and she kind of got up and moved away, and he still kept just boldly staring at her and following her, and then killed her. And then another thing too, I am so paranoid about under my car. I always check under my car if I'm like shopping at the mall or something like that. I always check my back seats. Like there's so many things that I think people don't consider that women have to do in today's day and age that are scary. And that was I think probably the scariest part for me, was like visualizing the things that I worry about day to day.
One thing I was just thinking about too, I didn't think about earlier, was each one of the people, the women that he killed in the movie, was well, I mean, obviously a different scenario, but a different. Like the first one, you don't really know much about it. It's just him walking. He just stabs her through the jaw. But the first one, he goes online and like stalks somebody online, and goes out on a date with them, kills her. The second one was a girl that he just randomly saw on a subway that he followed.
Yeah, that's killed. What I'm saying. Is some of them were courted and some of them were.
And but I mean, like each one was like a different kind of scenario to where it was I don't want to say motivation was different, but then like the third one was the lady that pissed him off, so he killed her.
Right.
And so it's like none of them really were the same kind of build up to it. It was like a different motivation for each one of the killings.
Yeah.
And which I didn't really think of. I mean, that is kind of what you said before too, but yeah, I didn't really put it together in that way in my head. But yeah. I'd like to also mention the score. The score was very very 80s synth, which probably is a lot like the original, I'm assuming, since it was a 1980s film, like 1980.
I wonder if it takes place in the 80s.
I don't think so. I was thinking that too, because with the girl that he met online, she had she had the knee-high socks, and it kind of had an 80s feel
but
to
her
her.
Little chat, it would have been like 90s, but their little chats online were definitely not modern.
Oh yeah,
it was like AOL.
I didn't think about the online, but some of the what was it that I noticed something about her that was a little bit more modern than would have been in the 80s. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I enjoyed it.
It was it was like I said, for the 800th time. I'm gonna watch it again for sure. But other than that, this may just need to be cut short. We were running late on broadcasting. I am going to have to sit down and really figure out how to use OBS because I'm a dumbass. But maybe I'll do some test streams on my channel at Sapphic Skeptic. Maybe I will later in editing go link that below. I don't know. But other than that, unless you've got any extra words, we're going to be trying to be on a regular weekly schedule. We don't know what day it's going to be necessarily. This was just a night we both had free for the second time. So for now, I guess we're doing Sundays, but we'll figure it out as we go. So
yeah.
Okay. Well, that's all I have. So if that's all you have. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.